morning, and welcome to Wednesdays with Darren and Cindy, where we bring you real conversation about things that affect our lives and the community. My name is Cindy Ward,
And my name is Darren Powell.
and we are going to be your host for our podcast.
According to the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, approximately 200,000 service members transition out of the military every year. A Pew Research study found that 27% report a difficult reentry. The number increases to 44% among military veterans who serve in the 10 years since September 11th. Influenced by many factors, successful transitions vary by individual.
All right, so on today's episode of Darren and Cindy, Wednesdays with Darren and Cindy, we are excited to have with us Sergeant First Class Beatty. Now, after hearing this transition story, knowing that you're about to transition, I don't know if we should call you, Sergeant First Class, or can we go ahead and call you Sir, Mister, or whatever we need to call you. But if you don't mind introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, I know you're in uniform, so we're going to call you Sergeant First Class. But tell us if we should call you Mr. We should call you Mr. Beatty. Should we call you Ned? Let us know.
So yeah, my name's Sergeant First Class Beatty, or Beatty. It's either way. So yeah, I joined the Army in 2001 from the Baltimore, Maryland area as an infantryman. While I was in airborne school, the 9/11 attack happened, and I quickly realized that what I thought my military experience was going to be something completely different in reality.
Wow.
Was stationed at Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, Fort Campbell, Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and here in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I've done 2 trips over to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan. Afghanistan was probably my favorite one as a platoon sergeant, which was an amazing opportunity.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm here in Japan and transitioning out.
All right. So what do we call you today?
Oh, please, just Sergeant Beatty's fine. I don't think I'm ready for the other stuff just yet.
Okay.
Okay. When I was active duty, back in my last, but a lot of people said you kind of know in your gut when it's time to transition. At what point did you get that knower that it was time to start preparing to that was going to be a life after this life?
So I actually realized it probably 5 to 7 years ago, very early on. During my deployment to Afghanistan, I really didn't. I didn't really care for the mission that was happening. It seemed like we were trying to play like these both sides, like still very active, but yet taking a step back. It was very confusing as to what we were doing. Wow. And I thought the senior leadership was extremely toxic, and I didn't want any part of it. But at that point, I had like 14 years in, and I had re-enlisted in DEF a couple years prior, so I knew I had to ride it out. At that point, then I really felt like my body starting to go. Watching young privates and specialists during PT hours really take it to me.
Yeah,
was a gut check. And and I just started to I just kind of looked around and I noticed things, and it wasn't things were changing, and maybe it's for the better, but it was. I just didn't really like what I was seeing. How slow the wheels of government can be, and I wanted to be part of something a little bit more productive.
Awesome. Wow, all the way back then is when you knew. But to know that you had to endure and keep it all the way because you are already enlisted for in death, that says a lot about you and your character, and you just stuck it out and everything. But in the early days of your career, what was the best advice that you have ever got in respect to transitioning out of the military? You knew a long time ago you were going to exit. So what's that advice that you got?
So I guess the best advice that I was given was, stay in. and stick it out. There was some people that they wanted, oh, you got to you got to do 30, make sergeant major, do that 30 years, and I knew that wasn't for me. But I mean, early on, before because I think every soldier you have to make that decision when you re-enlist, and it goes through your head of what are my options, on the outside or staying in. And I think the best advice I got was to keep re-enlisting and to be a part of the Army organization.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Good. If you could change or add anything about the Army's present transition assistance program, what would you say through your experience in transitioning?
Yeah, so those folks were real helpful over there. But they do have a good team over there. They want to help. If I could change one thing, I would say it would be to really push the career skills programs and those training with industry type opportunities.
Okay. So that's awesome that you would even say that. So what part did your education play in your choices around retirement, and how would you advise a soldier about needing or getting a higher education?
Very good question. So I did participate in a career skills program, and the specific career skills program I participated in was called Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship. And to be a part of that program, you have to have a degree.
Okay.
I believe you can have an associate's degree, but it doesn't look as good as if you have a bachelor's.
Okay.
You do have to apply for the fellowship, and an associate's might not get you there. So I would definitely tell every soldier who's thinking about getting out of the military, I would say absolutely do not until you have used your tuition assistance to get at least a bachelor's degree, if not even a master's degree. It's such an easy process with through the Education Center and Go Army Ed. It's so low cost to the soldier. I think for my bachelor's I paid $100, and that was just for the graduation fee.
Oh my gosh, awesome.
So, and then I call a good friend of mine that we've been friends for nearly 30 years. And he's 40 and his wife's 38, and they're still have student loan debt from master's programs, or I think she has a doctorate as well, and I mean it's crippling debt. And I don't think I don't think I agree with the old plan of, oh, I'm going to get out and go to school. Why don't you just stay in and go to school and get a paycheck,
right?
And save some of your benefits for whatever the future holds for you that you have no idea what that is.
Yeah, that's good thinking. And I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. I'm working on my doctorate degree, and I do have student debt, and so yes, I can totally understand. So for all the listeners out there, it can be crippling, exactly just how he said it. It could be crippling because of that debt that you incur. But for a soldier, I love that advice that you just gave. Stay in. Why not get a paycheck while they still pay for your college, so you can get the education at the same time? That's really good advice.
Yeah, I love that. Tell us about the Skill Bridge program and how it's designed to work. And would you recommend it to others in their transition? I think you've already kind of mentioned that a little bit, but again, hearing a little bit about your story, I think it's amazing, and it's a program I had never heard of.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so there's multiple career skills programs out there. I mean, for apprenticeships or entrepreneur tracks. The one I did was, like I said, it was called the Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship. They're all over the United States. Mine was out of the National Capital Region, that Richmond to Baltimore, D.C. area. But they're out of Fort Lewis, and it's available to all service members transitioning through all the branches of military. I was fortunate enough to get linked up with Amazon to be one of the area operation managers.
Oh, look at here!
And it was such a perfect fit.
Yes.
Now, I had gone and done some research about 2 years prior to my transition date. I was looking on, job search sites like Indeed and like Glassdoor, and looking at where I fit in the civilian world.
Right.
I'm not an IT guy. I don't know how to build a house. You don't want me as your financial manager. So, where do I fit in this civilian world? And, looking at the job descriptions for some of the management positions at Amazon and, project management roles at others, with other companies, I felt like it was a perfect fit. Looked at the job description, looked at the requirements, and, I was like, that's me.
Awesome.
So I knew a couple years ago that I wanted to be with Amazon. And one, it's a huge organization that's probably not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And I'm sorry, what was the question again?
No, you answer it. You're answering it right.
okay.
Seriously, I like this. So, is the Amazon here? Is it Amazon in Japan, or is it Amazon back in the States?
No, so I got hired on back in the States in the Baltimore area.
Awesome.
And for any of the NCOs that are listening, it's the perfect transition for an NCO, because what the managers do at Amazon is basically what NCOs do on a daily basis. It's, Amazon calls them associates.
Okay.
They're like level 1 employees. They're hourly workers and things like that. We call them soldiers. And all Amazon wants you to do is take care of the associates, help them with HR issues, make sure they're hitting all the performance metrics. Do they have any issues going on? All those things that we do for soldiers on a daily basis is what Amazon's looking for you to do for their employees.
That's
and
great.
So it's such an easy transition. Yes, there's some business stuff that you need to know, but if you passed 8th grade math, you're going to be just fine.
Right. Got you. Awesome. Thank you. Oh man, this is good.
Well, let me ask you a question. When I got out and I got my first real job, as I call it, I found that the negotiating the salary was the toughest part of it for me, because I just didn't know what to say. I always knew what my pay was going to be. I'm in this amount of years, I got this much time in grade, and this is how much I get paid. I kind of knew that, and so coming into, kind of trying to sell myself. So how did you go about that process?
So that was something that I was very nervous about. Luckily, with the program that I was in, the way it's set up is, Monday through Thursday, you're with your host company, whether it be Amazon, Verizon, wherever you're at. But on Fridays is I guess prior to COVID, it was a networking session, but we were doing them virtually. And guest speakers would come in.
Okay.
And they would talk about everything from job interviews to salary negotiations, how to transition from being a military leader to a civilian leader, all kinds of different stuff. And one of them was on, salary negotiation. And there's one website called PayScale, and you kind of, fill out the required fields, and it'll kind of tell you what you're worth in the civilian market. So I kind of use that resource. A lot of civilian companies, they keep people's pay. They're not encouraged to talk about it at all.
That's so true.
That's been my experience.
But I was kind of getting nudged by certain people, and they would say, "Hey, when you get your offer, counter the offer, counter the offer, counter the offer."
Okay.
And so when I got my original offer from Amazon, one, I was extremely excited, and I just kind of sent an email back to the recruiter, thanking them, like, "Hey, thank you so much for the offer. I was wondering if we could get closer to this number." And they bent a little bit. Came back, of course, like it's a negotiation, and I got, I think like like 13,000 more over 2 years.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Just by saying, just by asking for a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
You
That's
did
cool.
good for your first job
Yeah.
offer. You know, the county.
There's
you did good.
there's a lot of people out there that think that if I counter the offer, are they just going to take it off the table?
Yeah.
True.
And it's your hiring manager isn't your senior drill sergeant from when you were like, they're not out to get you. They're not
Right.
they're not trying to play mind games with you or anything like that.
Mhm.
They have a job to do as well. They're
Right.
and I mean the initial offer was a very fair offer. I was just trying to get a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But nobody's gonna just wipe the offer off the table.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know, because again, when I first did it, I was like, if I go too high, I'm gonna lose out on this job. If I go too low, they're gonna make money off me, because once you get in, it's much tougher to get a raise.
Yes.
So once you got to get what you got to know your worth
Yeah.
and everything. So that's good information, and I think that help a lot of people. But the last question is, I think, a really important question, and I guess it's, what advice would you give that new soldiers just coming in that might have career aspirations, or maybe someone's at the halfway point, and how to kind of start preparing for this process? Would you say they should start kind of thinking about this early, or?
Yes. So one of the major mistakes that I made was when I realized that I wanted to transition at that really early mark. I started declining the promotion boards for the master sergeant list. One was because I really liked the area that I was in, and I knew that if I got promoted, I would probably get moved. I owned a house there. I didn't want to have to sell a house. I wanted to be in that area after retirement. So I kind of played my hand a certain way, and part of that was declining the promotion list.
Mm-hmm.
If I had played that a different way and gotten promoted, the way Amazon hires and looks at my, the where they place people, and if I had made it to that next level and succeeded at that next level in the military, I probably would have come in at a higher position with Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And it honestly could have cost me about $75,000 to $100,000 in salary loss over the first 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, you got to think about those things as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, I think there's a lot of people out there that I don't want to say this new generation,
Mm-hmm.
but there's this new kind of mindset that you have to be very happy with your job. I watched my father work a job he hated for like 12, 15 years before he retired.
Yeah.
But he sucked it up. He did what he had to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
to make things work for you later on down the road. Take that short-term loss for that long-term gain.
Good advice.
And suck it up. Give 110% every day. Go home, cry yourself to sleep if that's what you need to do. I definitely tell, like, I've had, while I was in the program, I had people reach out to me on LinkedIn, and they were transitioning, like E5s, E6s that were looking at the program. And I would say, why are you getting out? You have 9 years in. You have, I think one had 11 years in.
Wow.
And I'm like, why are you getting out? Why are you giving up so much, like, benefits?
Mm-hmm.
I think for an E7 retired, if I live to life expectancy of 76, my retirement is it's like $1 million annuity paid out over that time. If I live past 76, it's more than that.
Right.
So why are you giving out on so much benefit, especially the medical benefits? If you've never seen breast cancer bankrupt a family, it's absolutely terrifying to know that it's a reality, and that's not going to be your reality if you you keep all those benefits and things like that.
Oh my goodness, you will make such a great retention officer. You hear me? My goodness, we gotta get you on board for retention.
But I love the balance. I love the balance in what you're having to say, because you're saying, you were ready to move on. You had some moments where, some things didn't align with your value system, but you still stayed in there and gave it 110, and you still believe in it. You still saying, "Hey, stay in. Keep grinding, keep doing what you got to do." Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, like if you're getting paid to do a job, you got to give 110%.
Sure.
Whether you love it or hate it. Especially as leaders, you have soldiers looking up to you. You have soldiers counting on you. So you got to come and give 110% every day.
Yeah, I could totally relate to that. I can remember being in the desert, 9/11, matter of fact, deployed. And I could just remember walking out one night, man, and it was just, how it is in the desert. You look up and it's just nothing but sky, but in the moon. And I just knew in my gut it was time for me to transition. But at that point, it was like I was still giving it everything I had, but it's still, I just knew in my heart it was time for me to start looking at something different. And I think we all have that aha moment where we just kind of know that it's time to, look into something else. And that's cool. So your story is great. I mean, I think it's really going to help a lot of people to hear this, because again, I think TAPS gives you one perspective, but to hear a person who's actually been through the whole process, set themselves up, and use some of these programs that are out there, because a lot of times you don't hear about these programs, or you hear about them and people aren't utilizing them. And so it's good to hear somebody actually utilize them and see how it benefited you throughout the process. And it's really putting money in your pocket. It's really, I mean, because just getting there, doing the internship, learning the game. I didn't have the opportunity to learn about negotiating a salary. I just kind of Googled it, went in there and sit down in front of, and it's kind of intimidating because you're sitting in front of 5 people. That, it's not like, one person, you've been wearing a uniform all your life. I was worried about what the heck do you do about clothes? I've been wearing a uniform. I'm like, man, that means I got to put on clothes to go to work every day. Yeah, do they wear uniforms at Amazon or?
Absolutely not. So that was one of the coolest things was my very first day, I talked to the guy that was going to meet me at the at security there at the fulfillment center, and I'm watching people walk in fuzzy pajama pants, UGG boots.
Oh wow.
The manager that came and met me was wearing a Bob Marley shirt. He had a long beard, hair up in a ponytail, tattoos from his fingers to his all up his arms. And that's kind of the culture. It's they don't, you're not allowed to wear a tie in the facility. I mean, it's dress for comfort. It's a pretty amazing place to work.
Yeah,
awesome.
I love that. They got $15 minimum wage.
I
mean, that means everybody's making decent money. I mean, that's a living wage, and I think that's pretty cool. And Amazon is definitely a good company to work for. And I think, like you said, I didn't think of it in that management position. You're basically doing what you've been doing for years, and I think that's why we're such an asset to companies, because our management skills are above and beyond. But it's funny how having a degree is what gets you into these programs, but do you really need a degree to, and I don't want to come against education, but I'm just saying, just to do what you do, the military probably taught you a lot more than school ever taught you for what you're going to be doing every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my degree is in legal studies. I just felt like everybody should have a very basic understanding of the law. So that's why I went for that major. So I understood my rights and things like that. But does it help me in that job? Maybe understanding some of the like Title VII laws for EEO policies and things like that. But you get a lot of that in the military too. But no, like my main goal for getting a degree was to check a block so that I wasn't excluding myself from anything after I transitioned, because my father-in-law had told me about, he was trying to hire a guy at his company a few years, this is years ago, and he loved the candidate. He thought he would be it was for a sales position, and HR called him back and said, "Hey, you can't hire this guy." And he's like, "Why? He's absolutely perfect. Like, doesn't have a degree, and it's a job requirement." Amazon's right now fielding a program to target senior NCOs more heavily. and they're, I mean, like I said, it's a pilot type program. I don't know when it'll start, but hiring people with leadership experience without a degree. But I'm not counting on that to, like, I don't think it's going to be a long-term type program, because I think they're going to find that they're finding enough senior NCOs and leaders in the industry with a degree.
Right.
So like you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage by not having some type of degree or using the credentialing assistance, which I also used. Such an amazing program. There's everything from I did the project management professional certificate, but there's, I mean, all the IT certificates, the if you're an IT person listening and you want to get into Amazon Web Services or something like that, there is all the cloud practitioner, solutions architect certificates available on credentialing assistance.
This is in the military.
Yes, absolutely. And
I never knew that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I never knew that.
Yes, I mean everything from nursing to IT stuff to project management. It's a new program that was just, I don't even know if it's a full year old or what, but it uses your TA money, but takes you to a credential.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. I did not know that.
This has been so good. It's been so rich. A lot of times we have these things, we can get through it in 20, but this one had to go a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you. I think you're really helping a lot of people, and you're definitely doing a service for this community as a whole, because there's a lot of people transitioning, and even just being overseas and making that transition, that's a tough transition for a lot of people. I was getting it was very uncomfortable. I actually stayed in an extra 2 years because I wanted to be back in the States to network and everything like that. For you to do it overseas, that's phenomenal. So thank you for your time.
I do want to say one more thing about the Career Skills program is it's up to the soldier to pay their way through it.
Okay.
So like I went back to Maryland. I was here in Japan unaccompanied, so I have a house and my family was in Maryland, so it was easy. But if you're trying to go somewhere, that you don't have a residence, you're going to have to pay out of pocket for living expenses. So it might not be in your best interest to transition from Japan. You might need to stay in, if you're looking to retire, maybe 12 to 24 months more. Get back to, a base around your location of where you want to retire. Do a career skills program. I can't tell you how much it'll set you up for success. I mean, just bar none. Like knowing what I know now, I would definitely, if I absolutely had to, I would stay in the military another 24 months just to be able to be in the position that I'm in now.
That's awesome. Again.